Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here, and when it comes to the pandemic benefits, there have been a number of different issues that have recently popped up when it comes to clawbacks, and this is both for GIS and CCB, that's the Guaranteed Income Supplement and the Canada Child Benefit, as well as a letter that some CERB recipients might be receiving claiming that they need to pay back $2,000. So in today's video, we're going to go over these details about these two different clawback stories, and it's going to let you know if this is something that's going to affect you and currently what the government's plans are around both of these clawbacks. But before we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you've ever been interested in the Canada Money Mastery program where we talk about building your wealth here in Canada, now is a great time because for the next few days there's a Cyber Monday sale that's 50% off, so check that out. But now let's get into this issue with the GIS and CCB clawbacks. For those who aren't aware, both the GIS and the CCB are benefits for Canadians that are calculated based on that Canadian's individual income from the previous year. Now with the CERB and the CRB, some people who are at a lower income level may have showed a slightly higher income level than average because of the benefits they've received, and now as a result, even though the benefits have been cut off, their GIS or CCB is now at a lower rate or cut off entirely. And this is something that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP have been making a lot of noise about. Let's listen in on this press conference where he highlights the issue further.
Well, that's exactly it. We are deeply concerned that there's nothing to address those two problems. There is definitely an injustice that seniors who are amongst the most vulnerable, those that are on GIS, are experiencing clawbacks now because they needed help in the pandemic. These seniors are worse off now than they were before the pandemic, and it should not be this way. This is wrong. People that rely on the child benefit are seeing clawbacks as well. Again, this is wrong. And so we want to see fixes to that. These are Canadians they're going to be struggling now, that are struggling right now with these clawbacks. Many of them, we've heard stories from people in my caucus, from my MPs, stories of people that are going to lose their home because they don't have enough money to pay their rent because of the GIS clawback. They can't buy groceries because of the clawback. So these are people that need our help. And so far, the Liberal government has not mentioned anything about it in the throne speech, nor are they mention it in any of the bills they're proposing to fix this problem. So they have not proposed to fix this problem. So this is something that we're going to continue to push for.
So after the NDP has made noise about these issues for weeks, we finally have just gotten a response from Carla Qualtrough. If you're not familiar, Carla Qualtrough is the employment minister for the Liberal government and is the one that would manage issues like this. Now in this press conference, it's a press conference about Bill C2, the one that's going to pass through new benefits like the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit. Interestingly, inside of this new bill, there's nothing about the GIS and the CCB clawbacks, and that's what this reporter asks Carla Qualtrough about, and I think you might be interested in her answer.
Hi, Minister Qualtrough. The NDP have been pushing to have GIS clawbacks ended and child benefits reassessed for people who are getting a lot less because they got a pandemic benefit before. The PM said today that ministers are working on a solution. So does that mean that your government sees this as a problem? And what exactly is this work that you're doing on this?
Really important question, thank you. So as you know, GIS is assessed annually based on the previous year's income. And because CERB was deemed employment insurance replacement income that was taxable, it was considered income for the purpose of GIS calculation this year, meaning technically that individuals had more income in 2020 than they may have had in 2019. And as a result, some are seeing reduction or even elimination of GIS for this year based on that last year's income. So this is, it is a more complicated issue than one would think because there's serious kind of fairness and equity issues for people who may have earned similar amounts in employment income. If a senior worked last year and made an equivalent amount, they too would have lost their GIS or had their GIS potentially reduced. And so we're working on a path forward that recognizes this, and doesn't want to create a potential inequity. We know how many people are facing this. It's a function, unfortunately, of an antiquated system that doesn't look at your real-time situation, but looks at last year's income. So we're working on that too. And we'll have more to say to that in the days to come. But certainly we are very, very alive to this issue.
So finally, we get some clarity from the Liberals that they are thinking about this issue where people have a lower GIS and CCB amount. However, they do bring up the point of the potential lack of fairness in this situation. The example that Carla Qualtero gives is that, hey, perhaps a senior who received the CERB or the CRB, that it counted as income and now they're getting less GIS. But the same is also true for a senior who was able to secure work and may have made a similar amount as these benefits, but was doing this via working and getting paid for their work. So is it really fair for people to be reassessed on their GIS and receive their previous amount if they received the CERB or the CRB, while people who worked to claim that income aren't able to reassess and get the higher GIS that they may have got if they were to use 2019? I hope this is making sense because it is a nuance that I personally hadn't thought about. They do say that they're working on a path forward to make sure that this is equitable and that it makes sense and it's fair to both people who received benefits and then got a lower benefit amount in the future and people who worked for that income. One thing that I think that they likely may do is just to allow anyone to reassess based on their 2019 income. So anyone, whether they worked in 2020 or whether they were receiving benefits, perhaps you could assess your GIS and your Canada Child benefit based on 2019 income, just to sort of make this entirely equitable for people from all different situations. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But this next question that the reporter asks is like, hey, if you kind of recognize that this could be a potential issue, how come you and your government weren't working on the solution a little bit earlier than now? And as a reminder, once we get through this GIS and CCB information, we're going to talk about the CERB clawback that's actually happening at the very same time.
Canadian Press had that briefing note from May that had raised this particular issue. That was before people had the baby bonus assessed. I'm wondering why your government didn't address this issue over the past 6 months.
Well, this is actually a function of people having filed their taxes and the kind of as a regular course, the GIS not being assessed until June and based on tax filings from last year. And the way CRA, I apologize, it's super technical and maybe we need a technical briefing, but it's how CRA codes the way people claim their income. And so we have been working on it, is what I would say is the short answer. But again, we're really mindful of the potential fairness and inequities that we could inadvertently be creating by relieving some people's obligation and penalizing someone who may have picked up extra hours during the pandemic as an opportunity, and now their ineligibility weighed against somebody with CERB could be consequential. So we're really rolling up our sleeves and putting our mind to this, but the path forward hasn't yet been figured out.
So I guess we're going to have to wait to see what happens when it comes to this GIS and the CCB clawback or the lack of benefits being given out as a result of this issue. But it's questionable on whether or not we're going to know an answer on this very soon, because certainly there's only another 2 weeks left in Parliament before they take their winter break, which leads them all the way till the end of January. So if this doesn't get addressed in the next roughly 14 days sitting in Parliament, well, then we could be waiting even longer to get an issue that started in June resolved, and we could end up resolving it all the way in February. But now we have to get into the recent headlines that say that Service Canada is going to ask for unreconciled CERB payments back. Now, if you're seeing this and are a little bit confused as to what that means, don't worry, it's a little bit confusing, but let me break it down for you and make it rather simple. For the CERB, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, this was the first pandemic support that was given out to individuals. Well, originally they handed this out both with the CRA and with Service Canada. Now, the way that Service Canada handed out this very first period of the CERB was that they gave a $2,000 advance ahead of the period rather than giving the $2,000 at the end of the period like the program was designed. They did this just to give people an advance because they recognized, hey, people might need this money now. Now, in order to sort of reconcile that extra $2,000 that was given to some Canadians who received the CERB, later on in the CERB program, there was a 2-week period where the CRA and Service Canada didn't give out the CERB to the people who originally got an extra $2,000 at the beginning of it all. I hope this is making it clear. So some people, essentially, by not getting paid for one of those periods, already paid back that $2,000. But for individuals who received this $2,000 bonus from the CERB and then weren't on the CERB long long enough for them to sort of pay that back by not receiving the benefit, well, now Service Canada might be sending you a letter and letting you know, hey, we're gonna need that $2,000 back. But one thing that Carla Qualtrough did say about this CERB request for the funds was that Canadians will not be put into financial hardship by having to repay emergency benefits that they received, and that the Government of Canada is going to work flexibly with Canadians who need to make a CERB repayment. Now, this is traditionally with like an interest-free loan or sort of a repayment plan that doesn't charge you any additional interest. That's generally how they go about these things. But to make this clear, this CERB clawback will only be for individuals who received that bonus $2,000 at the very beginning of the CERB and then were not on the CERB for the full duration of the program in order to pay that back by not receiving a benefit for one of the future periods. I hope that makes it clear because it is a little bit of a niche situation, but hopefully that gives you a better idea on whether or not you could be eligible or be required to pay this back, or if it's something you're not going to have to worry about. So obviously there's a lot going on right now, and I'm curious what you think about it all. So let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. And while you're down there, subscribe to the channel and check out the link in the description for the Canada Money Mastery Program, where we talk about building your wealth in Canada. Again, 50% off for the next few days with that half off coupon code. But with all that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.